There is a room nobody photographs. No one posts from inside it. No one gives speeches about it. And yet every fortune you have ever admired, every transformation, every overnight success spent years sitting in this room, in an uncomfortable chair, under bad lighting, waiting for a door that shows no sign of opening. I call it the waiting room. It is the years between doing everything right and anything actually happening. And tonight I want to talk about what goes on inside it, because here is the statistic nobody advertises. The waiting room is where 90% of people quit. Not on the climb, not in the crash, in the quiet. And the 10% who make it out do not survive it by accident. They do something different in there, and it can be learned. First, understand what the waiting room actually is, because it hides inside a mathematical lie. When you start anything real, saving, building, learning, creating, you are promised a curve, effort in, results out. What they do not tell you is the shape of that curve. It is not a line. It is a hockey stick lying on its side, a long, flat, insulting stretch of nothing, followed eventually by everything. The finance people call it compounding. The builders call it traction. The truth underneath both words is the same. Results are backloaded, brutally, unfairly, almost comically backloaded. You save diligently for 3 years, and the interest barely buys groceries. Year 17, the interest buys cars. Same behavior, same person. The reward for identical Tuesdays is 1,000 times different depending on where in the curve the Tuesday falls. Nobody is built for this. Every instinct you own was trained on a simpler world. Hunt, eat, plant, harvest, effort, result, this season. The waiting room breaks people because it asks a Stone Age brain to trust a graph it cannot feel. So the flat years arrive, and the room begins its work. And make no mistake, the room is not passive. It runs tests, 3 of them on a rotation, like a nurse who keeps calling the wrong names. Test 1, the silence. Nothing announces that it is working. You post and nobody watches. You save and the number barely moves. You improve and nobody notices, including, on bad days, you. The silence whispers the most reasonable-sounding lie in the world. If this were working, you would know by now. It sounds like logic. It is not. In backloaded systems, silence is what working feels like for years. The signal you are waiting for does not exist in this part of the curve. Waiting for proof before continuing is like refusing to trust a seed until you see the tree. Test 2, the exits. The room has doors, plural, and they open constantly, and none of them lead forward. The new opportunity that would mean starting over, the pivot that is really an escape wearing strategy's clothes, the friends thing that is taking off right now. Every one of them offers the same drug, the feeling of motion. Because standing still while working hard is the specific torture of the waiting room, and any movement, even backward, feels like relief. Watch how many people you know who are not lazy, who work constantly, and are exactly where they were 5 years ago. They never left the building. They just kept changing rooms, resetting the clock. Every room's flat years traded for a different room's flat years. A lifetime spent in year 1. Test 3, the cruelest, the comparison. Somewhere out there, someone who started after you is already out. You will see it, the algorithm will make sure of it, and the room will hand you the poison chalice, proof that it is possible, aimed at your throat instead of your feet. Here is what the 10% know about that person. You are seeing a different room, a different curve, a different starting line, and, always invisible, a different waiting period served earlier, somewhere you never saw. Nobody skips the room. Some people just served their sentence before you met them. So what do the 10% actually do in there? 3 things, and none of them are glamorous, which is exactly why they work. First, they stop watching the pot. The person who checks the number daily is asking the flat years for a verdict the flat years cannot give, and every check withdraws a little faith. The 10% measure inputs, not outcomes. Did I do the Tuesday thing this Tuesday? Then this week is a success, by definition, and the graph is none of my business yet. They put the scoreboard where their hands are, not where their fears are. It sounds like a trick of accounting. It is actually a transfer of power from a curve you cannot control to a behavior you completely can. Second, they furnish the room. This is the one almost nobody understands. The 90% treat the waiting room as a corridor, a thing to get through, teeth gritted, life on hold, happiness postponed until the door opens. And that is precisely why they cannot stay. Nobody can hold their breath for 6 years. The 10% move in. They build a daily life they can actually inhabit. Friendships, health, small pleasures, a Tuesday worth living on its own terms, so that waiting costs nothing because it no longer feels like waiting. Here is the paradox at the center of this whole video. The only people who can survive the wait are the ones who found a way to stop experiencing it as waiting. They redefine what the room is for. To the 90%, the flat years are a tax, dead time, the price of admission. To the 10%, the flat years are the workshop. It is where the skills compound quietly, the reputation forms molecule by molecule, the systems get built and rebuilt, the person becomes someone the eventual success will not destroy. Ask anyone who got money before they got years. The door opening early is not a blessing. The room is not delaying your success. In every way that matters, the room is building the person who can hold it. And then, one day, the door. And I have to be honest with you about the door, because the movies have lied to you about this too. It does not bang open. There is no music. The door opens the way dawn happens. No single moment you can point to. And then, somehow, light. A client refers a client. The channel gets suggested. The interest starts covering real things. And the strangest part, ask anyone who has lived it, is that by the time you notice the door is open, you have usually been walking through it for a year without realizing. The people still inside always imagine the exit as an event. The people outside can never quite remember the date. So if you are in the room right now, and if you are watching this, you almost certainly are, here is the whole message, and it is not a soft one, because you do not need soft, you need true. The flatness is not feedback. The silence is not a verdict. The exits are not doors forward. The person who lapped you served their years off camera. And the chair you are sitting in, the uncomfortable one, under the bad lighting, is the same chair every single person you admire sat in, longer than they will ever admit in the highlight reel. 90% of the people who sat there left through the door marked reasonable. The room did not beat them, the waiting did. And waiting, unlike talent, unlike luck, unlike timing, is a skill, the most valuable one you will ever build, and the only one the room was ever designed to teach. Stay in the chair, do the Tuesday thing, furnish the room. The door does not open for the person who knocks hardest. It opens eventually, quietly, for whoever is still sitting there when it does.